But Drake moves are being micromanaged. Oh, is he still on it? Is he still this? Just you fans already. You a fan. Because Kendrick is on a whole record-breaking tour, and there's nothing to talk about. Oh, he does the same show every night. Nothing to talk about. And this is the problem with all y'all media. Y'all act like y'all are above the fray and on some holistic. Let's all shut the fuck up. We are here to get clicks and views. And until you get off that soapbox acting like y'all real hip-hop, that's why we look at y'all like clowns. Drake gonna give us some to talk about. I hear his next record, and I'm trying not to get no info. I hear the next one we gonna talk about, but I don't know. Go talk about the other thing. I don't want to talk about him. He's not that interesting to me. Go talk about, oh, did I see him come out of the car in this segment of the show for this time and he had this chain on? Y'all not doing that no more? Go do that. Leave Drake alone. We, his fans, are perfectly okay with what he's got going on. We're excited. Get your bitch out of here. Sure, he lost. Leave. Peace. But here's the problem. Did you really lose if they can't stop talking about you more than the winner? If it's a post-game interview and they're running up to you to hear what you got to say more than the people who won, did you really lose at all? I've always said this about people like Ebro and those people of that ilk. They put more energy. And by the way, when people say, why are you number 2? Last year I was number 1 media personality. This year I'm number 2. I think next year, I think we're going to be good. You know why? Your haters give you the most amount of energy. A hater watches 5 times. A fan watches once or twice. The hater going to watch 5 times to see something he don't like. Then he going to talk about it. Then he going to tweet about it. Then he going to go hard about it. The hater works a full-time job. Your fan works.
DJ Akademiks has always positioned himself as the loudest voice in hip-hop media, a man who thrives in controversy and refuses to censor himself. But one of his most consistent observations is that mainstream outlets don't treat every artist equally. When it comes to Drake, Akademiks argues that there's a clear and obvious bias, and the way the coverage unfolds reveals more about the media's priorities than about the artist himself. The claim that Drake is micromanaged by the media isn't about his personal decisions, his albums, or even his public appearances. It's about the way narratives form around him. Every move Drake makes is picked apart, framed through a lens of scrutiny, and magnified until it becomes the only thing worth talking about. Yet when his peers, such as Kendrick Lamar, move quietly, their silence or their predictability is reframed as mystique. Kendrick can tour, perform the same show every night, and avoid endless headlines. Drake, meanwhile, can't walk out of a car without generating debate. That discrepancy exposes the media's true interest, clicks and engagement, not balance or fairness. Akademiks often points out that hip-hop media tries to posture as if it exists for the culture, for purity, or for a deeper appreciation of the art. He dismisses that as self-delusion. In his view, the outlets chasing Drake's stories aren't protecting the culture, they're feeding the machine. They know that Drake will always generate engagement. And because engagement is the real currency of modern media, the cycle repeats endlessly. Articles, tweets, and commentary will pick apart the smallest gesture, the smallest rumor, because traffic demands it. The bias shows itself most clearly when narratives of winning and losing emerge. After a clash or a feud, critics often claim that Drake has lost. But Akademiks pushes back on the idea that Drake can truly lose when the attention remains fixated on him. If after a so-called defeat the coverage still orbits Drake rather than the supposed victor, then the scoreboard becomes irrelevant. Winning in the digital era isn't about who landed the last diss, it's about who commands the spotlight after the dust settles. And Drake always commands a spotlight. There's also the paradox of haters that Akademiks highlights. Fans consume content once or twice, but haters engage obsessively. They rewatch, retweet, and pick apart everything. In a twisted way, Drake's critics become his best promoters. The more they claim to dislike him, the more time and energy they devote to keeping his name alive. This is the media's real blind spot. They think criticism damages Drake, but in practice it only expands his reach. In the end, their negative coverage turns into free publicity. The roots of this bias are worth exploring. Mainstream hip-hop media often claims neutrality, but the industry has long thrived on creating binaries, winners and losers, real and fake, authentic and commercial. Drake has always existed in a liminal space that frustrates these categories. He's both commercial and deeply lyrical, both mainstream and culturally embedded, both global superstar and deeply tied to the rap ecosystem. Because he doesn't fit into simple labels, critics find themselves defaulting to scrutiny. His success becomes a target, his ubiquity becomes grounds for cynicism, and his dominance ensures that even silence is interpreted as strategy. This is why Akademiks frames the treatment of Drake as evidence of broader hypocrisy. If media outlets were truly about celebrating artistry, they would give equal coverage to peers whose moves are more subtle. They would highlight Kendrick's consistent stage show, not as mystique, but as predictability. They would treat silence as disengagement, not reverence. But because those stories don't drive clicks, they are ignored. Drake, meanwhile, gets covered whether he acts or not, whether he wins or loses, whether he speaks or stays quiet. The bias is not just against him, it's for him, in the sense that he can never escape the spotlight. But being perpetually under the microscope is its own form of disadvantage. The unfairness lies in how narratives become weaponized. A moment of stillness from Drake can be interpreted as stagnation. A moment of excess can be framed as desperation. When he wins, it's expected. When he loses, it's amplified. The coverage is rarely neutral because neutrality doesn't generate traffic. The media's obsession with framing every move means Drake can never simply exist. He must always be contextualized, analyzed, or turned into discourse. And yet, as Akademiks notes, this is also the source of Drake's resilience. His detractors give him more energy than his fans. Every article designed to critique him keeps his name circulating. Every podcast episode that breaks down his moves guarantees another week of headlines. If the goal of bias is to weaken him, then it backfires consistently. Drake becomes the center of the conversation, even when others technically hold the spotlight. In the bigger picture, what Akademiks reveals is a truth about modern media as a whole. Objectivity is an illusion. Coverage follows engagement, and engagement follows controversy. The media doesn't obsess over Drake because he's flawed, it obsesses over him because he's bankable. But the act of constantly framing him as flawed is what sustains their relevance. They need him more than he needs them, and that dependency drives the cycle forward. The question then becomes whether Drake's dominance can survive endless bias. Can an artist remain at the center of discourse for over a decade without fatigue setting in? So far, the answer appears to be yes. Each time critics predict his downfall, he returns with another record, another hit, another headline. The scrutiny never breaks him, it reinforces him. But the cost is that he can never be left alone, never granted the respect of silence. Kendrick can disappear and be mythologized. Drake disappears and is declared irrelevant. That imbalance reveals everything about media bias and nothing about artistry itself. Akademiks' defense of Drake is therefore not just about one artist. It's a reflection of how digital platforms reward fixation. Bias in this context isn't malicious, it's structural. Drake is too big to be covered fairly because fairness doesn't sell. The media needs a hero to build up and tear down, and Drake has been filling that role for over a decade. Whether he embraces or resents it doesn't matter. The machine will keep running, and his name will remain the headline.